I dare you to say that word again, Ridley. Just try it. I won't be so merciful like last time if you do it. You've already lost one hand, so be prepared to lose the other one, Ron snarled, with gritted his teeth. Ron, stop it. He's just doing it to antagonize you. Dr. Director snapped sternly over the PA. Yeah, stoppable. Better stop it if you want to know where your family is, Ridley taunted. Ron shoved him back down on the cot violently. Where are they, Ridley? I'm done with your games. Start talking now, he demanded impatiently. Ridley smirked and said, Ah, yes, your families. Well, that's where the main event comes into play. You know, it took me a long time to plan it, so I don't have any intention of hiding it from you. Just tell me where they are, Ron snapped, growing more impatient. Before I do, you gotta answer this, Ridley began. How much do you truly know how it feels to lose someone you truly love? Stoppable. Shouldn't be that hard to answer. After all, you just lost your little ninja girlfriend of yours, so you should know the answer quite well. Ron, of course, you know Yuri was still alive, but there was no way he'd ever let Ridley know that, so he played along. Far more than I could ever hope to ever imagine, Ron answered coldly. I doubt a monster like you could ever understand feelings of love and happiness. After all, you said that if you couldn't be happy because of what Gerald put you through, you couldn't let anyone else be happy either. Upon mentioning Gerald Farkas, Ridley's expression turned sour and angry. Don't mention my old man to me. I don't ever want to hear that name again, Ridley growled. That fucking piece of shit. He ruined my life. I know very well what he did to you, Ridley, and I never thought I'd be saying as crazy as this, but despite all the pure evil shit you've done, I can't help but feel slightly sorry for you, Ron admitted. What Gerald did was unforgivable, but it doesn't excuse to what you have done. You've become far worse than your father could ever have. You let all that hatred and anger fester and boil inside you over the years from the abuse of the father inflicted on you. And look what you have become. A murderous genocidal maniac, bent on the world domination, and for what? Simply because you wanted to prove that you're better than your old man? Well, you certainly are no better, Ridley. And let me tell you right now, if your mother, Sarah Farkas, was still here and alive, she'd be ashamed of you. Hearing the name Sarah Farkas caused Ridley to snap. He attempted to lash out at Ron, but was held back by the handcuffs. Shut up! Don't you ever dare say her name, Ridley roared. She'd be proud of the empire I built. She'd be proud that I cacked that little fat bastard who even kept her locked up like me. No, she wouldn't, Ron shot back aggressively. And I can only imagine if she were to look down from heaven, she'd be crying tears of shame over that monster of her own son has become. And that's what you are, Ridley. A pure evil, sadistic, murderous, manipulative monster. Sarah would have wanted you to move on and rebuild a better life for yourself rather than waste it all by doing evil shit that you've done. You know nothing, Stoppable, Ridley raged. You can't possibly understand what my old man and his disgusting friends did to my mother, and to me. I should know because I was there in the basement as I watched them violate her and do things to her that you'd never imagine your whole life. Two wrongs don't make a right, Ron shouted back. You chose to become the man who you are now because you let all your anger from all that abuse defy you, and that's a fact, whether you like it or not, so live with it. Ridley breathed heavily through his nostrils with rage. Upon remembering the horrors of him and his mother endured in the hands of his evil father, it made his hatred for Ron even stronger. You think you know me, Stoppable? You think you've just read me like a book because you found my old tapes? You're an evil bigger fool. Well, that's what you think, Ridley hissed. You couldn't see. People don't understand what true pain is unless they experience it for yourselves like I did. Whether it be physical, mental, or psychological. They'll never understand it truly, unless they've been through it at least once in their past lives. So what are you getting at? Ron snapped. You've already felt some pain from losing your ninja friends, but do you truly know what it feels like to lose your family, or maybe even your girlfriend? Ridley hinted. Ron said nothing. I think, Ridley began, you have an idea of what it would feel like, but you haven't experienced it yet, so I don't know. Stop playing games, Ridley. What are you trying to pull here? Ron snapped, growing tired of Ridley's mind games. Simple. Ridley smirked. This is where you get to the main event. You see, Lloyd Florence has been a thorn in my side ever since he got in my way back in 1999. So capturing him was a must for me. And I'm sure you're wondering how I found your little hideout. Well, let's just say that you should really check your cars for bugs, 'cause you never know what you might bring back. Ron felt his heart skip a beat upon realizing the Black Shadow had bugged one of the GPS Global Justice videos with a tracker, allowing Ridley to find the location of their secret hideout. He cursed himself for being such a fool. I take it your expression that you know you fucked up big time more than once, Ridley said in a mocking voice. But I also take it you're probably wondering how your girlfriend is doing on her mission to save my rival Lloyd Florence. Ron felt his heart skip another beat upon hearing that. How the hell do you know about that? He demanded. Ridley sneered and said, You should have left her alone. You never know when someone close might betray her. Just then, Ron heard Dr. Director's phone ring. He glanced back at her to see the phone ring with someone. Ron had felt his heart trace with increase as he saw the color drain from Betty's face as he looked up at Ron. Doc, what is it? Ron asked fearfully. Ron, it's Kim, she stammered. Those global justice agents that were with her were Black Shadow Sleeper agents. I'm sorry, Ron. Ron felt the color drain from his face as Dr. Director put her on the phone speaker. As it turns out, Kim had tried sending her a message from her communicator. What said made Ron's heart faint. Doc, it's a trap. These agents are Black Shadow, and they're... No! Ah! Kim screamed over the phone as it went static. Ron felt his heart near a rage and breaking point, then spun around and grabbed Ridley by the throat. What have you done to her, you bastard? He screamed. I tried to warn you. You left her alone, Ridley sneered. Ron lost all patience and lifted Ridley off by the cots of the breaking the handcuffs with the process, then violently began throwing him against the wall. Where is she, you son of a bitch? Ron thundered. So much rage, you really are, Ridley mocked, but then was cut off when Ron violently struck him again, sent him flying back to the cot, where he broke into pieces. Ridley cackled madly like a joker himself, and Ron thrashed him around him again. Dr. Director and her agents headed for the doors, but Ron saw and quickly rushed over to her and smashed the lock. Back off, he belongs to me, Ron suddenly yelled with a demonic voice. The red glowing aurora turned around him, and Ron's eyes turned from brown to chilling blood red again. The red rage had awoken him once again. Ridley sneered as Ron stepped back over him with the speed of a rabbit and grabbed him by the throat. Tell me where they are now, and tell me where Kim is, or I'll tear you limb from limb, Ron roared demonically. She's now part of the main event, Ridley cackled. In a response, Ron raised his other hand and unleashed a jet of red lightning power upon Ridley, causing him to scream in pain. Where is Kim? Ron snarled. So impatient, Ridley gagged. Dr. Director and her agents struggled to get the door open, but Ron sealed it too tightly. Ron's glowing red intensified as he slowly raised his hand again, which crackled with lightning. All right, I'm going to tell you where they are right now, so hold your horses, Ridley gagged. Start talking, Ron demanded in his normal voice, but the red aurora was still around him. I gathered all your family members and your girlfriend and Lloyd Florence up to the main event tonight. Consider it as a test if you see it that way, Ridley began, still gagging from Ron's grip on his neck. But here's one catch to it all. That is, if you can only choose one. What do you mean, only choose one? Ron demanded. You see, you're going to have to make a choice tonight that will determine how much of a hero you truly are, Ridley began. I have my men place Florence in one location and your girlfriend and family members in the other. But you can only save one or the other, or else you'll have to lose a certain amount of time to do so. You see, each location is filled with fuel trucks rigged with C4 explosives, and they're all set to go off in 10 minutes. So it's the same for each location, so you have to choose only just one. Ron felt his terror run through his veins upon hearing this. This only made his rage boil even further. Where are they? He yelled, tightening his grip on Ridley. Florence is in the abandoned train yards where your girlfriend Bonnie met her end, and Kim and the families are in that abandoned factory just 10 minutes away from here. Ridley gagged. Give me addresses now, or your other hand comes off, Ron threatened, reaching for Ridley's one remaining hand. Not wanting to suffer the same fate that he did with his other hand, Ridley gave in to what Ron wanted. You better not be lying to me, you son of a bitch. You know that's where the factory is? Ron growled. I wouldn't lie about it. That's a ruin the fun, Ridley sneered. Ron violently threw him down to the ground and then turned to the door, blasting it with red lightning which caused it to burst open. Dr. Director and her agents burst into the room as Ron started towards the door, but then he turned back with Ridley with a serious look. Listen to me very carefully, you son of a bitch, Ron growled. You better pray to God in heaven above that Kim has not been hurt. If I find out what your goons did to anything to her or her families, I'll come back here and tear your limbs off and kill you slowly. That's a promise. Ron, what are you going after? Betty questioned. Both of them, Ron replied, heading for the door. There's not enough time, Betty reminded him. There is, Ron shot back with a serious voice. Don't forget, I'm a master of mystical monkey powers, and that means I can move faster than any normal human being. I could save them all. Ron's blue aurora shimmered around him, and he took off running in the speed of a jet fighter. He sped out of the entrance of the hideout, which was located behind an old shelf inside of the abandoned train station. Ron started out onto the road, heading towards the train yards first. He then ran down the road as fast as any possibly human could run. He heard a familiar voice in his head. Stoppable, son. Stoppable, son. The voice of feminine called out. Yori? Ron exclaimed as he ran past several cars in front of him. Stoppable, son. You've allowed the red rage to control you. Your mind is slowly succumbing to it. You mustn't get into it, Yori warned him. No, I've got better control of it. I suppress it when I take it over me. I can control it, Ron said as he took a left turn down the road. Don't be fooled, Stoppable, son. The red rage is manipulating you into thinking you have control. But in reality, it's toying with your mind, Yori warned. Your hatred for Ridley and fear of your loved one's safety is influencing the red rages over you, and I could feel it getting much stronger. You must fight it, or you'll lose yourself. I won't lose Kim to that monster. I can't lose her, Yori. If she dies, I don't know if I'll be able to go on, or retain control of the little sanity I have left over all this madness, Ron snapped. Please, you must calm your mind, Ron. The red rage is affecting your judgment. You should know that something is out of place. Ridley wouldn't just give you the locations of your family and friends without some sort of catch, Yori pleaded. He's toying with me, Yori. He thinks that I can't save them all. But I can, and I will, Ron insisted, turning down another road. I don't think Ridley's intention, and that is, something's wrong, and I can feel it, Yori said fearfully. What is even wrong that with Kim, Lloyd, and their families in danger, are being killed by this madman, and wasting your time? Stop getting in my way, Ron angrily snapped aggressively. Yori went silent after that, and the presence vanished from his mind. Ron eventually reached the abandoned train yards 4 minutes later, leaving him with 6 minutes to save Kim and everyone else in the abandoned factory. Most of the train yards were shambled after being thrown apart the other day, but Ron was able to make out something, or someone, strapped into an old oil tank freight car with chains in the set of oil-rusted rails. It was Lloyd Florence. Upon reaching the freight car, Ron saw there had a ton of C4 bombs attached to it, and with the timer center only 5 minutes left. As Ron smashed the chains, he saw that Lloyd was unconscious, so he quickly slapped him several times to wake up. Lloyd, wake up! We gotta get out of here! Ron yelled, dragging Lloyd away from the freight car. Lloyd stirred and slowly woke up. Ron, what's going on? Where are we? He asked, glancing around. That bastard Ridley has chained you up to one of those freight cars and tried to blow you up. He's got Kim and my family, her family, and all of my friends locked in the abandoned factory, and I've got to get there fast before time runs out, Ron exclaimed, and as he passed through the entrance of the train yards. I remember now, Lloyd replied. Several masked men drugged me while I was off to fight several intruders in the hideout. I'm sorry, Ron. I didn't know how they found us. I do, but there's no time to explain. I've got to get to the factory before it blows in 5 minutes, Ron replied. You're going to have to want to be far away from this place once the bombs go off. Call Dr. Director for help. Ron, how do I... Lloyd started, but Ron quickly zoomed off at lightning speed. As he rushed down the empty roads, he feared for Kim's life and prayed that he'd get to her on time. If Ron had lost Kim and everyone else he loved, he knew that he would lose all to go on. I've got to get there. I've just got to, Ron fought. I couldn't let that monster win. You hear me, Ridley? Kim will not die. Ridley was fully restrained onto a metal chair, up with Dr. Director and several other Global Justice agents surrounding him. He had remained silent since Ron left, refusing to answer any questions Betty demanded of him. She had once called in backup and head down the areas where Lloyd and Kim were being held captive, but she had yet to get a response. However, as Ridley glanced over at the clock wall, which read 12:03 a.m., he smirked sinisterly. What's so funny, you disgusting freak? Dr. Director demanded coldly. Stoppable is such a fool. He thinks he'll win, Ridley snapped, still sneering. Ron is the strongest, toughest person I have ever worked with, and he's not going to give up that easily, Betty snapped. So you're calling him a hero isn't right in the head. The strange power he's using seemed to be messing with his mind. Either that, or he's just plain foolish, Ridley retorted. What the hell are you talking about? Betty demanded. Stoppable thinks he's going to save his girlfriend, but he's going to go boom the second he reaches her. So when he and the rest of his family are, Ridley replied. No, they won't. Ron is a very fast runner when using mystical monkey powers, and I know he'll reach them all, Betty shot back. It doesn't matter, because no timer where his girlfriend is, Ridley sneered. What do you mean? You'd think I let Stoppable have Kim so easily? Hell no, Ridley said with a scoff. You see, as far as Stoppable's concerned, he is going to reach his family and his girlfriend, and they'll all live happily ever after. What a brainless fool. Doesn't even know that I've got a little nasty surprise waiting for him. By the time he notices it, it will be too late. I'll be killing the two birds with one stone. Dr. Director felt his heart skip a beat. Then he quickly grabbed his shirt and then pulled him right in front of her. What the hell did you do? She yelled. Ridley sneered and then said, Simple. I rigged the whole factory with motion sensor bombs. That stubborn fool headed right into my trap. The second Stoppable enters the room where his girlfriend and family are, they're all gonna go like firecrackers. Pop, pop, pop. Ridley's eyes widened in horror, realizing the trap that Ron was unknowingly about to fall to. Then she slammed Ridley against her chairhead. You son of a bitch! Why? She yelled angrily. Ridley's expression turned serious, but then said, Stoppable and his girlfriend are a threat to my organization. You think I'd pass out and pass up the opportunity to finally get rid of them? Hell no. Once the world's all the best two heroes are finally dead, no one will oppose me. The invasion shall finally commence after all these years of planning. Like I said, you lost this fight a long ago, before you even knew about me or my organization. I've spent the last 5 years building up my organization and planning our new world order. I'm not going to let those two get away with it. Face it, you lost, plain and simple. Betty quickly dialed her phone and dialed the number of Ron's communicator. Ron Stoppable, come in now, she yelled, trying to reach him. However, there was mostly static. Don't even bother. My informer set up cloaking signal jamming drones all around the area where Stoppable is. He's all alone now, Ridley sneered. In range, Betty punched Ridley square in the face and headed for the door, then glanced back at 4 Global Justice agents in the room. Make sure that pile of trash doesn't escape. I'm going after Ron, Betty ordered firmly, then headed out the door. As she ran down the hall to the exit, her heart pounded with fear upon realizing that she might lose 2 of her best agents, Kim Possible and Ron Stoppable. We're just amazing agents, but heroes to the entire world, and the only 2 people that would oppose to the Black Shadow. If they end up being killed, Betty wasn't so sure how the world will stand a chance against coming invasion. She had looked over at the evidence from Dark Wood after Ron left it. It was clear the Black Shadow was far more powerful and dangerous than anyone could imagine. How could we be so blind? How could the world not notice this? Betty thought as she headed out into a dimly lit parking lot towards a Global Justice patrol car. She knew she had to be quick. or Ron would end up falling for Ridley's trap and end up dead along with Kim and everyone else in the factory. Betty then climbed into the patrol car, sped off with the lights, with the siren running, praying that she would make it on time. Kim stirred awake upon hearing a familiar voice. "Kim, please wake up," the voice of Ann Possible pleaded. Kim shot up, now fully awake, and finding an area much colder than usual. She glanced down to find herself tied to a middle chair in just her bra and panties. Rufus had been tied to the back of the chair with metal wires, so he was trying to bite through, although he wasn't having much luck. Close beside Kim and Rufus were her parents, her two brothers, Ron's parents and little sister, Wade and his father. They had all been tied to metal chairs with metal wires, and they were trying to struggle to get free. Kim glanced around and saw that they all appeared to be inside what looked like a loading dock of an abandoned old factory. What caught their eyes was the 4 Arco fuel trucks parked on each side of them, and they all had C4 bombs attached to them. "Kim, are you all right? What happened to Ron?" Wade asked frantically. We caught Ridley, and Dr. Director found out where Lloyd was being held at," Kim began, still drowsy. I went there with 2 global justice agents, but they were Black Shadow informers, and they knocked me out before I could take them down." "Sis, we gotta get out of here," Tim urged Kim, struggling. "We've been trying to struggle free, but these wires are too strong." "Hang on, I'll try and free myself," Kim replied, fumbling with her hands trying to loosen up the bindings. They were so much stronger than she thought, but she kept trying. "Kim, you never told us where Ron is," Wade inquired. "He's back with Dr. Director interrogating Ridley. We need to get out of here now before these bombs go off," Kim replied. "I don't see any timers for the bombs," Josh Possible said, noticing that the C4 bombs didn't appear to have timers on them. "I find that odd." Anne then glanced around at the wires all attached to C4 bombs, leaning down to the cement floor towards a large opening door with the laying door. The wires had connected several small devices, what looked like motion sensor alarms, attached to the running frame of the old door. Anne realized in horror what this was and turned to Kim. "Kim, we can't go through that door. I think those motion sensors attach our triggers to bombs. If we go through the door, it will set off the bombs," she warned Kim. Kim then glanced over at the doors and indeed saw multiple sensor alarms attached to it. "We have to find another way out once we're out of here then. These trucks have never been brought into the parking lot entrance, so we can maybe go through there," she replied. Kim continued fumbling around with her restraints, praying that she'd be able to get herself free and her loved ones. She wondered if Ron found out while she had been asleep into a trap and coming to save them. Kim was pretty sure that Dr. Director got a part of her message before the informant smashed her communicator, so she could only hope that help was coming. As it turned out, Ron had finally arrived at the abandoned factory and found it dimly lit by the street lights. It had appeared here to be a few lights inside the old rotting building. Panting heavily, Ron had smashed down the front door and charged into the building, finding it hard to see since most of the lights were off. "Kim, where are you?" Ron shouted at the top of his voice. In the back of the loading dock, Kim stopped fumbling with the wires upon hearing Ron's voice, faint but clear. He was calling for her. "Ron?" Kim exclaimed. "He's here," James Possible said in relief. Kim was about to call it to Ron, but stopped upon remembering the motion sensor bomb triggers. "Ron, wait! The doors are booby-trapped!" Kim yelled. From a deep voice within the factory, Ron faintly heard her voice was coming to his left. "Kim!" he exclaimed, rushing down the darkened hall towards the sound of Kim's voice. It's as if it sounded like she was trying to warn him about something, but Ron was still too far away to hear what she was saying clearly. He heard Kim say something, yelling again, and this time it sounded clearer. Ron could then see a light coming from the corner to his right. Then he rushed down in the direction where he now heard Kim's voice very clearly now. It sounded like she was trying to warn him about something. Ron heard Kim saying something along the lines of the room being booby-trapped, and he assumed that she was just referring to the bombs Ridley's goons had placed in there. "I'm coming, Kim, hang on!" Ron called out, hoping she'd hear him. He then heard Kim yell his name again, and this time she heard it coming from down the hall to his left. There was an old rusty sign hanging from the label which read loading dock. Pointed to the left, Ron realized that Kim and the others were mostly being held captive in there. So he then ran faster and than ever down the hall to the left. Once Ron made it to the left hallway, he saw a singular door that left hanging from the loading dock area. "Ron, where are you? You have to stop!" Kim yelled. Ron quickly then rushed down the hall towards the loading dock, none understanding why Kim was telling him to stop. As soon as Ron made it to the door, he then found it torn open and laying on the floor. There in front of him, he saw his parents, sister, Kim, Ann, James, the Tweebs, Wade, Rufus, and Wade's father all restrained in metal chairs, surrounded by several fuel trucks with C4 bombs attached to them. "Kim, thank God I found you!" Ron cried out in relief, rushing forward. "I'm going to get you all—" "Ron, no!" Kim screamed. He ran past the door. "What's—" Ron started, but didn't even finish his sentence as a rapid beeping suddenly filled the room, followed by flashing red of all the C4 bombs. At that moment, he saw the lights flash around him and began beeping. Ron then realized in horror that it had been a horrible trap. There was no timer for the location of the bombs, only motion sensor triggers that he had triggered all around the room. Kim and Ron stared at each other in blind terror as the beeping and flashing got louder, and out of pure instinct, Ron rushed to Kim. "No!" he yelled. He used his mystical monkey powers to generate a shield around him in hopes of protecting Kim. However, Ron was far too late, as right as he reached Kim and the others, the C4 bomb detonated, causing all the fuel trucks to explode at the same time. Because Ron was so focused on trying to save everyone, his shield was incomplete, and this caused him to take full-blown the explosion. The blast sent Ron flying through the entire wall to the loading dock, with a force so powerful that it blew both his forelegs and arms off, and instead of clothing and the hair ablaze, Ron screamed in agony as he was thrown outside of the factory and landing in a large puddle of water in the side of the asphalt road. He then rolled onto the wet puddle, trying to put himself out as the flames ate away at his clothing, his hair slowly roasting him alive. Ron eventually rolled onto the dirt on the side of the road and finally managed to extinguish the flames, burning him alive. Although Ron had put himself out, the pain he was now experiencing had been so terrible that he could no longer stay unconscious. He had been badly burned from the fire, causing the vision to become blurry. The last thing Ron saw before he blackened out was the burning factory about 50 feet away from him. It was now completely engulfed in fire. It was so in the future that Kim and Ron would have faced together. Ron knew he would undoubtedly die from his injuries, but he didn't care. He rather died and then live in a world without a woman he loved. He accepted this without hesitantly. Sorry, Kim. Ron thought for a moment, and his entire world went black.